All right, welcome. Today we are going to build a tech deck ramp. It looks like this. So pretty cool. We're going to start by building or sketching out this side piece, and then we're going to extrude it to a thickness of plywood, and then we're going to do a rectangular pattern tool and just create that same thing 5 different times all the way across. Then we're going to build in the deck here, the curved deck. Then we're going to move on to the coping, the top, the back, and the base, and then we're all done. I'm expecting probably 5 or 6 videos on this, so let's just jump right in and get going. First thing we want to do is save our file. I'm going to click save, and I'm going to call this mini ramp, and I'm going to call mine the final version because I've modeled it a few times now trying to get the kinks out. Mini ramp, and this is my video version. You don't have to name yours that, but that's what I'm naming mine. And I put mine into a project called Tech Deck Skate Park. You can click on this little drop down menu here, and you can click on new project and create a new project for it. I recommend that so you don't lose it later. You know where you saved it. Okay, so click on save. Everything is saved and located perfectly. I'm going to check real quick, just making sure my document settings say centimeters. If they didn't, I could click here and edit them. Choose centimeters, and then make sure you do set as default. We'll almost always be using centimeters. Okay. All right, so now we have to get that first complicated side done. So let's get to it. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click right there. I'm going to build this. I'm going to start building it with this corner being right on the origin, and I'm going to build out and up and back and up and over. So let's do that. I'm going to grab my line tool, start here at the origin and drag up. That's the back of the ramp, so I'm going to do that as 14 centimeters. I'm going to double click, and if I double click, I get to use the line tool again. Click here, and I can go over to 5 centimeters. I'm going to type in 5 because I want to guarantee 5. If you just come over, let me show you that actually. If you just drag a line over like this to 5 centimeters and click, notice how it didn't give me that dimensioning line up here. So this line can change lengths now. So instead of doing it that way, I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to grab a line tool, come over. Even if I get to 5, I'm still going to type in 5 and push enter. And now I've got this measurement line, meaning that this line now can't be changed, like it's stuck in place now. And that we want that to be 5. So make sure you get that one. Otherwise, the geometry is going to go crazy later. So this should be 14. This should be 5. I moved my 14 out to the right. Remember, you can move these dimensioning lines wherever you want. Now down to the bottom, I'm going to dimension the line this way. But this one, whoops, do that over again. I'm going to dimension the line out this way to about 30 and drop it. I don't want to put a dimension on this one. I actually want this one to change. This is the line that's going to change as we change the slope of our ramp to make everything work. I'll show you that in a second. Now at this point, I want to drag a line up from this point up over to here to do this little line on this side. But I need to do that up 2 thicknesses of plywood. So first I got to modify the parameters and add my thickness of plywood to it. So user parameter, I'm going to call this one thickness. Now I need to figure out how thick the plywood is. To do that, I'm going to grab 4 or 5 sheets. I have 5 sheets. I'm going to grab my calipers. I'm going to squeeze the 5 sheets together, and I'm going to measure that with my calipers. Piece of cake, just like that. I get 13.40 millimeters. So I'm going to use that number, and I'm going to put it right in here in your expression, 13.40. But that is the thickness of 5 sheets of plywood. I just want 1 sheet, so I'm just going to do divided by 5. Right there in Fusion, don't use a calculator, and you can see it gave me a value of 2.68. So on average, the plywood's 2.68 millimeters thick. Now I just measured in millimeters, but my units say centimeters, so all I have to do is click over to millimeters. There's no problem using millimeters inside of a drawing where you have centimeters as your main unit. Fusion will just convert them very easily around to each other. And then down here for the comment, I'm just going to put in plywood thickness. That way, if I ever get confused about what it means, I can just check it out. Click OK, And check one more time, that millimeters here, yep, 13.4. You also could have typed in 1.34 divided by 5, and then could left it in centimeters. It's up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to grab my line tool. I'm going to go up. I'm going to do thickness, enter, times 2, enter. I've got that line now. And now one more line. I want to have a flat part of the deck at the bottom of the ramp. So I want this to be 5 centimeters. So I'm going to click in 5 and hit enter. And now I've got that one. Notice how this line is still blue, even though I said how long it should be. The reason for that is we didn't dimension in this bottom line. So this line, let me show you. This line, if I grab it, I can actually drag it to the left and to the right. What did that just do? That's super weird. I'm going to undo that real quick. Somehow I drew extra lines on this side. So I'm going to do this over again. I'm going to grab here and I'm going to drag over 5 and hit enter. And this time I'm not going to drag this blue line because I think dragging that blue line screwed it up and created extra lines. That was super weird. All right, now we need to do the ramp face. So we need to do this curve that goes through here. We're going to do that curve with a big old circle. So I'm going to click up here, a circle. All I want to do is make sure that my circle is like above this line and somewhere in here, like way up in here. I'm going to draw a circle. Doesn't matter how big I draw it. In fact, you could draw it wherever you want. It's just going to be easier if you draw it up there in space somewhere. Now I'm going to connect that circle to this point and to this point. So I'm going to use the coincidence tool. I'm going to say grab the circle and connect it to that dot. And it just did. I'm going to say grab the circle and connect it to this dot, and it just did. And when it did that, notice it brought in this bottom line, it shrunk it in some. Now this is not a good ramp, right? So this would like fall down underground and then like flick you out over the side and you would die when you came falling down this side. So first of all, let's fix the bottom. So down here, we want this ramp right here to come nice and smooth into this line. And when you want a line and a circle to be smooth to each other, you need what's called tangent. So it's right here. It's a circle with a line on it. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click the circle. Then I'm going to click on this line down here. And sure enough, now the circle comes nice and smooth right down into this line perfectly. If you were riding this with a skateboard, you wouldn't feel it at all. It would be a perfect transition. That's what tangent is. But notice up here, we still have this crazy wave looking thing. So if you rode this up off the top of this thing, you would just go like, and crash down there. Not cool. So let's get that fixed. We want this takeoff angle. We're not going full vert. So we want this takeoff angle to be about 75 degrees. I'll show you how to build that in. So the first thing we're going to do is grab a line, convert it to construction, click on this corner right where the top deck hits the circle, drag it out to the left, however far you want, doesn't matter. It's just a construction line. Then we're going to grab another line, construction line, same place right here at the corner, and we're going to drag it like ish. So all you don't want to do, just don't let it be vertical, straight up and down. Just put it out here somewhere, some kind of weird thing. See how it's grabbed this now? Don't let it grab that either. You want to just out there and just weird all by itself land. Okay? And then I'm going to hit escape. And this one should be orange because we didn't place it around anything. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to dimension. We're going to set the angle between these two lines. To do that, we use the D-dimensioning tool. Click on one line, and then click on the other dimensioning line, the other construction line. And now it gives us an angle in between. The third click is where you want to place the angle measurement. So we're going to put it right there. And let's call this one 75. This is going to be our takeoff angle from the ramp, right? So right here at this point, we want this circle to be going at 75 degrees. So now all we need to do is set tangent, click on the circle, and set tangent to this line. And now it's got that takeoff angle. So now we have a takeoff angle of 75 degrees right at the very end. Very cool stuff. Tangent is genius. All right, now everything else is fixed. Notice how this blue one that could be moved is now fixed in place. Everything is done. Now I'm going to show you one weird thing. So I'm going to hit escape out of the tangent tool. I'm going to use D for dimensioning, and I'm going to click on this bottom one. And then I'm going to put the dimension right down here at the bottom. Fusion's going to warn me that this isn't a real dimension. It is a driven dimension. I'll tell you what that means in a second. I'm going to click OK. Fusion identifies these driven dimensions by parentheses. So the difference with this and a regular dimension, like right now, because I typed in this 5 and there's no parentheses, that line will stay at 5. What this parentheses means is this distance is being driven or determined by all these other measurements working together. They create this measurement. So watch what happens. If I hit escape, if I change this 14, I change it to like 12 height, this dimension changed. None of the other ones changed because these are all real dimensions that don't change unless I change them. This one is a driven dimension which changes based on all the other ones. So that's the difference between a driven and a real dimension. Real dimensions don't change unless you make them change. And driven dimensions change whenever other stuff changes. So it can change. Kind of confusing, but kind of not maybe. I don't know. So what I wanted to show this to you for is you can change your angle at the top here. You could change it and you could say, hey, I want mine to be 65. Like 75 is too steep for me. But notice that now the bottom is 31. This bottom needs to be under 29 centimeters or right at 29 centimeters in order to make a cut on our laser. So if you do get something bigger than 29 and you want to keep this 65, you can just make your top deck smaller. So say, hey, I want to go only 4 centimeters here. Or maybe, okay, I still need a little bit more. So maybe I want to go 4 centimeters on my flat part at the bottom of the ramp, right? So just you can play around with these. But if you do these changes, you got to keep track of it while you're going through, because I'm using the one for 5 there and 5 there and 75-degree takeoff angle. All right. So that's it for that part. We're going to go ahead and cut in all the, we have a little more time. We're going to place in the tabs before we do the extrusion. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I want to tab down on this bottom here. Oop, turn off my construction line. So I'm going to create a rectangle right here, a 2-point rectangle. And I'm going to do thickness tall. And down here, I'm going to do 1 centimeter wide. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to use the dimensioning tool. I'm going to click on this left side of the rectangle and then the left side of the ramp. And I'm going to make this 2 centimeters, just like that. So that's going to be a little tab that sticks up so the ramp can have something to sit on and kind of hold itself in place while we bend it into place. All right. And then the next thing I'm going to do is create some tabs along the top here so that we can have our top deck can sit in there and be joined. So I'm just going to come over here in some random place here, and I'm just going to call this thickness. I'm going to call this 1 centimeter, enter. I'm going to draw another rectangle. All right. Oh, I just grabbed, see how I grabbed that center point? I don't want to do that. I'm going to escape out of that. That's the only place I don't want to grab is this, because otherwise it won't move around. It'll be stuck right there. So I'm going to come over here a little bit, drag over, and do 1 for the, 1 for the width, and then thickness for the height. Enter. I'm going to get the dimensioning tool. I'm going to click on the right side of this to the outside of the ramp. I'm going to say 1 centimeter there. And then I'm going to dimension in between the 2 rectangles. I'm going to call that 1 centimeter as well. And that's all perfect. So that's good. Now I'm going to I'll go ahead and cut the joints into the back. So right here you can see there's all these joints cut into the back. We're going to cut those now. So I'm going to grab my tool and I'm going to grab a rectangle tool, top corner here. I'm going to do 1.25 down. And then the width is going to be thickness, of course, because the plywood is going to go across there and join there. And then I'm going to do create a rectangular pattern. And I'm going to grab all 3. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong one here. So what I can do is I'm going to click on this long one. That'll turn it off. I'm going to drag this stupid thing out of the way. I hate when it puts the thing in the way. And then I'm going to click on here, but I'm going to hold it down for a second. And that'll bring up this little menu, and then I can choose which of these sketch line. That's the big sketch line. That's the little one. I want the little one, so I'm going to click on it. And now I'm going to drag down. I'm going to drag it all the way down. Not all the way down. I want to have, I think it looks better if you have the last bit of this side be wood and not be a hole. So that looks pretty good. Okay, so maybe I'm going to go, yeah, negative 11.5. I'm good with that. And instead of 3, I want a lot more than that because it doesn't look very balanced right now. So I'm going to up this 3 right here. I'm going to keep going up. You know what? That looks... I like 5 better. I'm going to go with 5 on mine. So I have a quantity of 5 and a distance of negative 11.5. So if you want to copy mine, that's what I did. So quantity of 5, negative 11.5 for distance. Click OK. That looks fantastic. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the tabs along the bottom as well. So you can see there's also cutouts along here. I'm going to grab a rectangle and I'm going to put it over here somewhere where it's not touching anything. This side is going to be 2 thicknesses thick. So I need thickness asterisk 2 for thickness times 2. Tab. I'm going to use that same 1.5 I think as I did on... I'm going to use 1.5 this time. I want it to be a little wider, I think. And now I'm going to center this one. So again, I've got to hold down the left mouse button to be able to get the one I want. And I want that little short one right there. I'm going to center that one on the big one. And then I'm going to do a create rectangular pattern. I'm going to click on all of these pieces. And then I'm just going to drag it out to about there. I want to make it so this is like 2 big squares plus 2.5-ish. So 2 big plus 2.5. That's pretty good. Let's see what I get with 11.8. No, let's just keep it 11.5. Let's use an easier number. That'll look really good. And then I'm going to increase the number here. Whoops. 5 is too much. I'm going to go with 4. And then I'm going to say, okay. Right? Yeah. Okay, so what I did is I had a quantity of 4 with a distance of 11.5 centimeters. And then click OK. All right, so I think we're ready to extrude. I think we are. Yeah, so we're going to extrude this. And we're going to extrude all of this. Notice how we've already cut out all those. So that was easy. We're going to extrude this one and this one. And we're going to zoom in and extrude both pieces of that one. And we're going to extrude this away from us. So here we're going to do negative thickness. I like to always extrude away from me. That way the thing closest to me in the home view is where I started my thing and I made everything go the other direction. I like it that way. And then click OK. Awesome. So now if we look at the right side, we've got this super complicated piece. I know it took a long time to make the very first piece, but once this one is made, it kind of sets the stage for everything else. Awesome job so far. We'll pick up here in the next video and we'll pattern this one out, make all the other pieces, and then start doing the deck and everything else. Hang in there.